Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massively complex story that's been absolutely everywhere. For 40 straight days, the media has been completely consumed by a fierce controversy involving prominent educators, a violent clash in Patna, and a truly heartbreaking tragedy in Nepal. And throughout this entire media storm, one central figure stayed notably quiet. But recently, in a really comprehensive interview, he finally broke that silence and presented his documented rebuttals. So we're going to jump straight into Khancer's highly anticipated perspective, using the exact evidence and arguments he laid out, just to understand his side of this incredibly layered situation. So let's start with the big question on everyone's mind. Amidst all those intense allegations, the massive public outcry, and honestly a very emotional media trial, what exactly is Khancer's defense? How does he explain his involvement, or lack thereof, in the June 2nd clash and the tragic events that followed in Nepal? Well, he came to this interview armed with legal documents and police FIRs, really aiming to shift the narrative away from raw emotion to what he claims are hard, documented facts. He made his mindset pretty clear right out of the gate. As he put it, and this is a quote, "Truth can be troubled but not defeated. I stayed silent for 40 days to gather legal proof." He claims his extended silence was absolutely not an evasion, and definitely not an admission of guilt like some people were speculating. Instead, he describes it as a very calculated, necessary period. He needed time to fight his private legal battles, secure his standing, and actually gather concrete court documents before speaking out publicly. He argues that in the middle of a media frenzy, just shouting louder doesn't change the truth, right? He wanted to wait until he had the actual proof in his hands. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the long silence and the identity debate. During those 40 days, a lot of news channels were repeatedly asking who he really was, kind of framing it like it was some sinister secret. Well, Khancer breaks down this so-called mystery pretty simply. While millions of his students obviously know him professionally as Khancer, he clarifies that Faisal Khan isn't some dark alias. It's actually just an affectionate nickname used exclusively by his in-laws. As he puts it, to them, he's a brother-in-law, not a teacher. On top of that, he completely denies those wild rumors about having dual Aadhaar cards under the name Amit Singh. He calls it totally baseless and points out that having two Aadhaar cards is logistically impossible anyway. Moving right along to Section 2, the June 2nd clash. Let's look at what he claims actually happened. This was the exact spark that ignited the whole 40-day firestorm. Now, according to Khancer's minute-by-minute breakdown, this conflict was never actually about coaching center posters being torn down, which is what was widely reported. He says that at 10 p.m., the office is closed. 10 minutes later, at 10:10 p.m., a campus caretaker named Chin, who was just a guy looking after the premises and the cows, was brutally attacked by a group of 20 to 25 people. Khancer claims that he and his staff only jumped in to literally save this caretaker's life. By 10:30 p.m., things had escalated in the dark. Stones were being thrown, and that's when his guards fired aerial shots just to safely disperse the crowd. Now here's where a huge point of contention comes in. People quickly alleged that Khancer lied to the media when he initially said 8 to 10 rounds were fired, mostly because that detail was mysteriously missing from the first police FIR. His response to this? He states his guards absolutely did fire a rifle into the air, but purely as an act of self-defense to save the caretaker from a mob. He claims he only left the gunfire out of the initial FIR because the police directly suggested it to help de-escalate the situation quickly. He had no idea it would later be weaponized against him as a lie. Okay, let's look at how the legal side of things played out in Section 3, arrests and legal maneuvers. The contrast here is honestly pretty stark. Roshan Anand spent 13 days in jail. But Khancer explains this wasn't because of any malicious interference from him. It was because, during the bail hearing, the police actually brought up Roshan Anand's prior criminal history, specifically tied to previous protests. Under current laws, that really complicated his release. Khancer, on the other hand, completely avoided arrest. He explains that his lawyers just moved super fast to secure a no coercive status from the court. It's a legal protection that stops the police from arresting you while the facts are still being sorted out. So he attributes his freedom to simply understanding the legal system, not to using any kind of illicit power. Now, we really have to address the heaviest and most sensitive part of this explainer in Section 4, the tragic Nepal incident. In the interview, Khancer actually pauses to express his deepest, most genuine sympathies for the grieving family of a young man named Prince. He fully acknowledges the unfathomable pain of a mother losing her child, but he also firmly and strictly pushes back on the main media narrative here.
He completely denies the idea that his June 2nd FIR, which was over a local coaching dispute, is what drove Prince to flee the country in fear for his life. To counter that widely accepted story, he actually brought physical documents to the interview. The media allegation was that the June 2nd FIR terrified Prince into fleeing, but Concer's rebuttal relies on a very different paper trail. He claims he had to bring these documents out to clear his name, arguing that Prince and his associates were actually running from the police because of several much older, far more severe legal cases hanging over their heads, cases that had absolutely nothing to do with Concer. He lays out a highly specific timeline to back this up. We're talking about a 2021 kidnapping charge in Bahadurpur, a 2023 extortion and kidnapping charge out of Sonpur, and crucially, a 2023 Arms Act violation in Narpadganj, which is right near the Nepal border. In that one, individuals were allegedly caught with a pistol and illegal liquor. Concer argues that it was these severe, pre-existing charges, which carry massive penalties and make getting bail nearly impossible, that actually kept Prince from staying in India, not a relatively minor scuffle over a caretaker. Building on that, Concer makes some pretty startling claims about what actually went down in Nepal, referencing police and media reports. He alleges that Prince didn't actually suffer from epilepsy, like some people claimed, but was dealing with a severe head injury from a June 2023 assault involving 30 people. He also heavily questions the actions of the friends who were in Nepal with Prince. He alleges that these friends gave him unprescribed seizure and sleep medications, literally abandoning him in the hotel room while they went out, and then later gave wildly conflicting statements to the media about whether he passed away in the room or at the hospital. Finally, let's pivot to Section 5, backlash from fellow teachers. Over those 40 days, a lot of prominent figures in the edtech world publicly turned against him. And let me tell you, he does not hold back in his response. Addressing critics like Awad Ojha and others, he accuses his peers of speaking without having any of the on-ground facts. He says they just jumped on the media bandwagon from hundreds of miles away. He boldly claims this whole industry backlash is purely motivated by professional jealousy. He even dismisses rumors that he faked student successes, like a student named Niraj's Air Force placement, calling them nothing but desperate smears. Ultimately, he suggests these critics are just incredibly frustrated by how much he's disrupted their traditional market. Honestly, his core argument about the industry backlash all boils down to this one number, 200 rupees. He claims that his incredibly low fee structure, charging literally just 200 rupees for courses, is the real reason the industry turned on him the second he was vulnerable. He argues that by democratizing education at a price point that low, he's severely undercutting their business models, which totally rely on selling expensive recorded courses for thousands of rupees. To him, all that outrage wasn't even about the incident. It was just a golden opportunity for competitors to take down a massive market disruptor. So as we wrap up this explainer and look at all the FIRs, the timelines, and of course the profound tragedy involved, it leaves us with a really heavy thought. When a story is this deeply emotional, fast-moving, and layered, how critical is it to actually wait for documented evidence before passing judgment? The gap between the initial media narrative and the legal documents presented here is just vast. It really forces us to ask, in a media trial fueled by emotion, how much does the rush to judgment obscure the actual complex facts of reality? Thank you so much for joining us as we unpack this intricate material. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.